rusty wheels and knew I'd take her home. I brought her to my farm in an Amish neighborhood where simple living's valued. She'd be loved and understood. I put her on a treadle stand and coaxed her wheel to turn. I felt her joy and easing with my study and concern. I cleaned her and I oiled her, showed her off to all my friends, repaired the hurts of years, and let her sow again.
Hello and welcome back to my new project. This is going to be Florence, obviously, and I don't know yet how old she is. Her number is FR715973. The last one's either a 1 or a 4, I can't tell. Never worked on a Florence rotary, never worked on a White machine at all. I believe Florence is part of the White company. I don't know, I guess I'll learn. But as always, I got her because she had been pulled out of a treadle cabinet that someone was making into a table and they were gonna throw her out. So here I am, rescuing again. I am going to do my usual thing of just taking her apart, and as I take her apart, carefully document it so I can see how it goes back together again, and put all of her little parts in their own little baggies. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing is she has the little detachable plate, all right, that you just push the button on and it comes off. Now the plate says the White Sewing Machine Company of Cleveland, Ohio. Use white needles only, you know, but it says use white FR needles only. And FR, I'm assuming, stands for Florence Rotary. I don't know. There is a needle in her, but it is broken. It has a blue dot on the top like a lot of Singer needles do. So I'll have to do a little research and figure out what kind of needles she uses. But I just wanted to show you the plate that way. There you go. Okay, so I've got the plate and assorted screws in the same little baggie as my big plate, so that can be out of the way. She is terribly filthy in here. Yeah, terribly filthy. All right, I'm just gonna get started on trying to disassemble her front plate here before I get into anything down below. I think I'm going to start with her presser foot lifter lever because honestly, I've never seen a system like this. This doesn't just come off, it wraps the whole way. So I'm just going to try to take off screws as I can around, and look at there. It had a washer and this other little system here. Let me turn the camera so you can see this. Can you see how it's shaped in there? So there's a little screw here. I think that this part is welded to it. I think that's part of the arm. I don't think that that's a funky washer. So that's what it looks like on the inside with the little lever. We have a washer that was on the outside here and a screw to hold it into that little place right here. Now that that's off, I am taking off this screw, and this looks to be part of a tension mechanism because I can see a spring in there, so that's what I'm guessing at this point. It's not pulling out all the way though. Okay, so this little spring popped out, if you can see her. So I'll have to do research on how that goes back in. A little washer with cogs on it. That was all inside underneath this arm here, okay? Let me get a magnet to put this stuff on so it doesn't get lost. And obviously there's something else holding it on, and I don't know what that is. Oh, it just springs on, okay. So at the end of the machine, there's a little nub that's just formed in part of the machine here. And I can lift it off of there. I'm thinking that there's a spring or something on the inside of this plate holding this on, so I may have to wait until I actually get this whole part off before I can deal with that. I am just loosening up the clamp that holds the needle on, and yeah, the needle that was in there was just a basic Singer. It was just a basic Singer, so I'm just going to throw that broken needle away. Pull this whole little clamp off. And this is what it looks like. Here it's got like a square channel, and the nut goes on this side like that. I pulled off the presser foot. There's just this little screw on the side that loosens it, and there it is. So over here there's a little lever that goes up and down, and at the top it says loose and the bottom it says tight. So I'm thinking that this is how you regulate the tension on here. I'm just going to go ahead and take the plate off of this. There's 2 screws holding it on. Okay, so I want to try to get this plate off the front. It's more like a cap. And it looks to me like there's 2 big screws, one right here and one underneath right here. And they look hardcore and like someone had trouble getting them off at one point, so I've got my big bit with my ratchet handle. I'm going to try to go ahead and undo them. If they give me trouble, I'll put some penetrating oil in there. Well, they're actually coming out fairly easily. I'm happy for that. So here's the big reveal. Are we ready? I think it's the big reveal. Hang on a second. There's something keeping it on here. Okay, so this is what I have on the inside. It looks like the nasty presser bar and needle bar are both in here. I should say the opposite way, needle bar and presser bar. So I'll take those apart, but now I have access to some other things. So I just have one arm here, and this arm connects to this post down here on the needle bar, okay? So that's pretty simple in there. I like that. I'm going to go ahead and take this side piece off here first. Okay, so right here, this part, I'm going to move my light fixture here. This is the bearing that was holding this little arm in place, okay? It's going to be like this. Hang on. There we go. So now you can see that a little bit better. And then there was a little plate over it and a tiny screw over that. But it's really nasty, but it's kind of a neat system. I like that. All right, I am just going to try to take this apart for a little bit. So I'm unscrewing the cap. Whew. When I unscrew the cap is what's holding this little part on here, which looks like part of the tension mechanism. Okay, so that was on there, cap on it. Put those down here for a moment. And before I can slide this bar out, I need to get a little screwdriver. Hang on, light back on. And get a little screwdriver and take this screw out here so that this little block can slide free. So inside of the post is another screw, and I went ahead and backed this one out. It just sets all the way inside of it because I couldn't get the post to come loose. I was thinking that might be holding it on somehow, but I think it's just welded in place because of all of the gunk. So I'm going to go ahead and put some penetrating oil in here to try to eat some of that away so I can pull this block out. Because once I do that, then I can pull the whole bar out. Okay, so I got my needle bar out. This is that filthy little piece that was holding it in. So I'm going to put the screws that go with it back in so I don't lose track of them, and put all of that together in a little baggie. All right, I'm going to start to take off the presser bar area here. So first thing, I'm going to pull the cap off the top. Try to hold it carefully so that if a washer wants to shoot out, I will catch it. Come on. because I can tell that spring is under pressure. And there is no washer. It's not one that I see. Okay, so I should be able to pull the spring out, which I did. Those over there. And there's a couple little brackets in here I need to loosen up before I can pull the bar out. Okay, I got one screw out of this little bracket down here, but it is stuck in place. I think it's just more goo holding it, kind of like the other one. So I'm just gonna put my little screw on my magnet, and I have penetrating oil all over the place. It's just a big gooey mess in here right now. But I can see if I push down hard, it is sliding, so that's a good sign for me. Now for this one up here, let me see if I can shine the light here. There's a little block here that I need to get out. The interesting thing I'm seeing is that the screw that's holding this little block on, right here, okay, the screw head is pointing from this direction. Okay, it's a fairly wide screw, but I need to be able to get a tiny screwdriver head in here to unscrew that screw. Oh, okay, so I'm going to see what I can do because I'm going to need to be able to get that off soon. This piece out here that I started off with, it will eventually come out. Once I can get this out, I can access the things behind it. Okay, so I'm able to get in there with my tiny little bit and loosen it. I won't be able to pull that screw all the way out because, you know, the hole is right there. But hopefully that is enough that I can start to loosen it up. I'm just going to tap on this and see if it's loosened up enough to go through. Okay, so this is the bracket up here that I have taken out now. It's the upper one. This part of it goes behind the pressure bar, all right? I'm still working on this lower one. You can see I've gotten it quite a bit lower, but it's an odd mix because if I loosen this screw, it puts pressure on the needle bar to press it, or yeah, this is a presser foot bar to press it out. If I tighten up the screw, it tightens the clamp, but the pressure bar can go straight up and down. So it's a weird mix. I'm just going to keep playing with it and eventually get it all the way through. The penetrating oil finally did its thing, and I think the key to this screw is it's like a Goldilocks screw. You can't have it in too far and you can't have it out too far. As soon as you get it out far enough that this isn't under any pressure, but out far enough that it's not grabbing the bar, that's the point where you can pull it out. So, got my presser bar out now. I said I got my presser bar out now. Shoot. Well, it's almost out. Let me tap this out. Okay, so I got it out now. Here it is. So this little part that was giving me so much grief is right here. Let me turn the light on so you can see. This is that screw that I was talking about. I think my battery in my flashlight is dying. That's why it keeps going disco on me. Let me go get a new battery. Okay, so the entire system for the presser bar is the cap at the top, and then the spring, and then the flat bracket. Where are you, flat bracket? Oh, it's in my hand. Haha. The flat bracket with its screw, relatively flat. This block with its screw. And then I've already previously taken off the little foot down here. So that is this system. Okay, so since I have that out, now on the inside, remember there was a plate that said tight and loose for the tension? Inside here there's a little screw that I'm going to be removing that's going to take this arm out. And that's part of that whole system. I got the plate here, I'm going to keep it all together. So taking out this little lever, it has a screw, but it also has a washer underneath that screw. So screw, washer, and then lever like this. And now on taking this part out here, there is a screw right here Get my flashlight up here. Right there in the corner, right there. And I'm going to take that out, and hopefully this whole mechanism will be free. Okay, so that little screw was holding this plate on, okay? So I've taken that off, and it looks like there's a little pin right here that is the last thing to go. So I'm going to need to punch it out from the inside out. It is a tiny, tiny pin. I really wish I didn't have to, but there is a tiny little screw here. Looks like the size of screwdriver for like an eyeglass kit, you know, that I can take off right there. So I'm going to try to do that, remove the whole front part, and then deal with the pin. Well, while I was messing with the screw, and I did not get it unscrewed, this whole thing just kind of popped off of that pin. So that's good. This is the little hole right here that the pin was in. So I think that when I put it back, I can just push it onto that pin. So that's good. I'm just going to leave it in place. Here is this whole little mechanism. Okay, so I'm going to tackle this little piece here. And on the side, there is a screw that I can get to, actually, over here from this side. I can line it up and come in this way and take out this little screw. All right. I was hoping that that would free this entire thing with the post and everything to come out, but it didn't. So it looks like I'm going to need to try to loosen this one up, which is a little difficult because it keeps wanting to move around on me. So I'm going to go get a fresh battery for the camera and get myself in a good position where I can, you know, use a paintbrush or something and try to wedge this wheel so it'll stay still while I undo this bolt, and I will be right back. Okay, so I've got everything, you know, shoved my handle in here so I can unscrew this bolt right here so that this little bar comes out. And so since I have this out, I'm going to go ahead and put that the little one in the side, I'm going to put that back in just so I don't lose it, and leave this as a single piece to clean, and I think that that's going to be good for all of this in here. There's a whole little plate right here with a couple screws, and if I move this lever out, it moves this, and I'm pretty sure this has to do with locking the machine into the treadle cabinet, which I am not using because I do not have it. So I think what I'm going to do is take this off. I won't be putting it back on, but I will keep it with the machine, so if it ever does get a new home and they have the appropriate treadle cabinet, they can put it back on then. And I'm just going to unscrew this back thread bar. It actually looks kind of bent. Does that look bent to you? Because it looks a little bent to me. But anyway, taking this off, it has a thread guide with it. I think that this has to do with winding the bobbin, but we'll see later. And even if this is a little bit bent, I am going to reuse it because that's what holds this on. But this, there's a second spool holder here, and it is perfectly straight. So like I said, I've never dealt with a White or a Florence rotary or anything, but I'm just sitting here playing with it, and I'm watching the feed dogs, and it looks like it's opposite of like a Singer. And a Singer, you always pull it towards you, but when I pull it towards me, it looks like that is reversed for the feed dogs. And when I push it away from me, that is in forward for the feed dogs. So I will have to look into that, but just, you know, pointing out what I see here. Let me go ahead and take off the bobbin winder. There is one big screw here on the side that looks like it's holding this on. Okay, so that came off really easy, and now I'm just going to be taking the plate off, and this plate is for the stitch length lever. It should polish up really cute, but there's two screws that are going to pull it off. Like that. I want to show you the clutch. release for this. It's really neat. It's this little lever that you just pop up and it separates. Okay, and then when you want to engage it again, you put the little lever down and everything turns together. So I think that's a really neat little system. I'm actually not going to take the wheel off yet until I get all this stuff underneath done, but what I wanted to show you is when I take this off, I'm able to see how all of this stitch length stuff works in here. And it looks like the big screw here, this is the one that I need to pull out first, but unfortunately that is directly in line with the wheel, so I need to pull the wheel out before I can get that out, before I can get all of that out. So because of that, I am going to skip all of that for right now, flip her upside down, and work on some things underneath. And it's a rotary machine because, let me turn over here. It's a rotary machine because it's a rotary bobbin. Well, I don't know if I can show you. Hang on. Okay, so when it turns, it just keeps turning in a circle. It doesn't oscillate, you know, it doesn't go back and forth. It goes all the way around in a circle, which is kind of nice. I'm looking at this part in here as it turns. Okay. And the bobbins for this machine are a little bit different. They are wide, flat bobbins, but I do have several that came with it, amazingly enough. And this is the little bobbin case for it, and they both need cleaning. So anyhow, I'm going to put this in a safe place so I don't lose it, and start taking apart the bobbin race and everything that has to do with the feed dogs. Okay, so this little screw right here is what's going to hopefully release my feed dogs. So I'm going to pull that off. There's a washer behind the screw, very important. And I think she's just stuck with goo because I don't see another screw right now. So let me see what I can do to just release her. Okay, that is the little feed dog piece. Now I'm going to undo this little screw here, which looks, come on, it looks like it is holding on to a bracket, which should help me if I pull this off to get to things below it. That's my thought right now. At this point, I'm just trying to take everything apart with a little bit of common sense. Okay, so I got this screw out with its big old fat washer. It's like a lock washer. It's got grooves on it. But before I could do that, there's this screw. This little screw goes into the side. It was holding it on kind of like this. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. I wish you would focus better. All right, so I'm thinking I hopefully have my focus issue straightened out. I had to do a factory reset on my camera, and I think it's because I just, especially when my hands are really nasty, I have to just grab my camera however I can, and I think I'm pushing buttons. And I have a Sony ZV-1. It's a great camera, but it has a lot of tiny buttons. So we're going to test it out here to see if it can focus on this little nut. And this is the little cut back area, and I think that you can see the shape of that little lock nut in the back. So yay, we're back in business here. I'm looking at the underneath here, and I'm thinking that this is the first piece I'm going to take off, but I'm not at my table, so I need to show you ahead of time. There is a bolt over here that connects it to this vertical shaft. I'm going to take this bolt off, and then at the ends there are what looks like pivot screws with a locking nut on the end of each side, and I'm hoping if I take those off that will free up this shaft, which is of course connected over here, but I think getting this loose is the first step. I wanted to show you these little nuts. They're this weird size where 1/2 inch is too small, but 9/16 is slightly too loose. So I was able to get it to work, you know, over here on this side, but this side it just spun around. It's kind of nuts. Anyhow, the bar is now completely loose. Over here, this part I just put the little screw and nut back on. This was 3/8 inch here, just to keep it together so I wouldn't lose any. And this part just pops off. It's got a little fork there. Okay, so I'm going to put this and its pivot screws all together. That almost looks like a weld there. Nope. I thought that was a weld and a repair, but it's just a lump of goo. I'm going to do the same thing, taking off this pivot screw and this one to try to get this little bar out of the machine. And this is what is connected to the little bracket down here that had that funky little cut lock washer. Or not lock washer, lock nut. There's a little screw right here, and it looks like the most obvious one, so I'm going to take that off. I got stuff everywhere. Okay, first of all, there's a itty-bitty microscopic spring that I cannot lose that was underneath there, okay? So I've got this tiny spring. I've got the little screw that was holding it on, and I've got the bracket. I'm going to put all of this in its own little bag right now so I don't lose it. So over here, there is a clamp. Over here there's a clamp, and all you have to do is push the button on the bottom, okay? And it releases a clamp, which releases this plate. So this is it. You can see it a little bit better here, right there, okay? So now this is free. There's a screw over here that is on part of the big cast iron spot, and it looks like it's working like a clamp. I'm thinking that I should be getting closer to the point where I can lift this whole mechanism out, but I'm going to flip this over so it's flat on its back again so I can see what's going on down here. Noises in the background. This is what my husband is working on. This is a treadle cabinet. Well, it's a treadle base, all right? It was falling apart, so it's repainted base. All the doors and extra stuff is pulled off. This was just the big main piece. And then there's a piece of wood that's screwed onto the bottom, and he is cutting a slot here that the belt can reach through. This is going to be my new universal treadle base, so I can test out all of my treadle machines in their own boxes out here in the workshop. So by the time I'm done, I will be able to show it to you. I'm very excited about that. So carry on, Mark. Smile at the pig. There he is. He's so smiley. Okay. Up here, this is really fun gear, and there is a screw that holds it in place. I have pulled out that screw. It's over here. And this sets on the very end of it right there, okay? But it is loose now, so I'm just have it down here out of the way for now. And this is also loose now, so I can pull it down out of the way. I believe I have taken out every single screw that can possibly be holding this in right now. And to me, it looks like there's a cast metal piece coming out this side. Okay, there was a screw here that was working like a clamp. I've taken that out. And this cast metal piece here, I believe, is the other side of this. But I pulled out all the obvious screws, but look, right here in front of me, there's a pin. There's a pin sticking out. And this is a pin that was driven in, but it doesn't have a back that I can tap out from the other side. It's just wedged right there. I put some pliers on it to try to pull it. It does not want to come out easily. So this could be a problem for me. I may have to just leave it. I may have to leave this and clean this in place because I do not want to destroy that pin right now. So my plan is, I gave this a quick clean, okay? I'm going to take this off from here. This bar is going to be stuck on as long as this shaft is here. But this part up here is going to come off, and I will put it in the bag separately. I'm just gonna try to carefully right now, and I already did give it a quick once over to clean up around inside the bobbin area, the race area I should say, and all of this, so that by the time it goes into the stripping tank, it's already got its first cleaning on it. And the last thing I'm going to do is get out the stitch length mechanism, the fork, I think it's a fork that's attached to it, and the wheel. Okay, so now I need to try to get the wheel off, and there is a screw over here on the side. I'm going to take it out first and put that on a magnet so I don't lose it here. So many magnets. All right, there's also a screw down here that looks like it is holding this little lever, which has to do with the clutch end. So I'm going to take that out. Let me change bits here. Okay, so here is the little bolt, and this is the little piece. That is for the clutch engage and disengaging area there. I'll put that in a baggie with that other bolt before I lose it. And it looks like I need to take off this massive screw up here first. And that unscrewed surprisingly easy. I am thrilled with that after the last couple machines. All right, I'm thinking this center part can slide off, but let me look around and make sure I don't have any other hidden pins or screws that I am missing here. What is this? Looks like a tiny pin there, but it's within itself, so I think that's okay. I think I just need to start wiggling it and maybe it'll pop off. Okay, it did pull off after that, no more screws, but I did have to use my gear puller. Where am I? Here I am. I just have a basic simple one, but it worked. And now these have come off, so they will be getting stripped, cleaned, and painted also. All right, I want to show you inside of here, inside the Florence rotary, if I can get the camera so you can see. First of all, her stitch length regulator does work. It does move fairly freely. I can get oil in there and clean it. But there are a couple places, a couple massive screws up here I need to take out. And I'm just not feeling like I need to take that out. You know what I mean? I'm feeling like I can get in there, spray some stuff in there that's gonna penetrate all that old oil, be able to wipe it down and mask it off without having to take this stuff off. That's my thought right now. I do still have this plate over here that I need to pull off, so I think I'm going to take this off and see what I can see inside of here before I make my final decision. Okay, so I opened up this panel, and that gives you a lot of access to all of this. I love this big panel. I really wish a lot of old machines had a big panel like this. It's like my new home had the big panel where you could see everything. How great is that? So because of that, I am just going to, before I put this in the stripping tank, I am going to try to do my best to throw nasty cleanup oil and everything in here just so I can try to clean this up some more. But I'm going to leave this in place while I strip it, because if anything, the extra cleaning that'll happen in the stripping tank will also clean it off. The stripping tank is great for rust and paint, but I want to try to get some of the old grease off first. But you can see I can get it to move, and I think once I clean all the nasty grease off, it'll move even better. Stuffy cat. So let me do it. Go ahead and do that. And then I think she's going to be ready for the stripping electrolysis tank. So I will show you with her submerged. In case you're wondering what I'm using, this is what I'm using. You know, it is another Schaefer product that my husband got for me. Smells fabulous. I love it. It smells like oranges. So I'm just spraying it all over the place. I'm going to let it sit for a little bit. I'll come back this afternoon and wipe it down. And then once she's wiped down, then I'll go ahead and put her into the tank. I wanted to say that last night I did look up online. I found a couple diagrams that I can hang on to while I'm putting her together again. And I did look, and yes, on these machines, the wheel does turn the opposite direction than like a Singer would. For a Singer, when you're sewing, it turns, you pull the wheel toward you. On this one, you push it away from you. So that's going to be an interesting thing to get used to. Means it is a treadle machine, so it'll just mean treadling backwards. I suppose if there was a motor on it, you'd have to reverse the wiring on it so that the motor would go backwards. But, you know, we are not putting a motor on her, although she does have a place where we could. She's got this bracket, she's got that area. She didn't come with one, so at this point I'm not putting one on her. But if someone wanted to, I would guess that to make the motor go backwards, you just have to reverse the wiring. I think it's the wiring that attached to the brushes. I don't know. You guys probably know better than I do. But yeah, I'm just pushing my degreaser stuff all over in here, pushing it in, and there was one other thing. Oh, I was trying to figure this part out last night. Remember there's a pin right here? Well, you can't see. I need to lower you here. Hang on a second. Okay. So remember, if you do, there's a pin right here that was keeping me from being able to pull all of this out. And I was watching one video, because this is basically the same as a white rotary. I think White bought out Florence and then just kept making the same product called White Rotary. But the guy, I was watching a guy and he's like, oh yeah, just loosen the screw and you can move this back and forth. But his pin was missing. It looked like on the machine he was messing with, that pin had been pulled out. And he had a white. And I was thinking, well, I wonder if it's just the Florences that by the time they made them into whites that they took that off. But no, I have a white rotary, because you know I collect. And so I flipped it upside down and looked, and no, it does the pin also. So I think in order to be able to move this shaft and everything, that pin does need to come out. And it was not going to come out easily, so that is why it's in place. So this machine has a lot more parts being left in it than I normally do. But because of this big open panel and stuff, I think I'll be able to make it work really well. So anyhow, that is it. Hope you liked it. Next time, we will be stripping and painting her. See you then. Bye-bye.
I found an antique sewing machine, forgotten and alone. I touched her rusty wheels and knew I'd take her home. I brought her to my farm in an Amish neighborhood where simple living's valued. She'd be loved and understood. I put her on a treadle stand and coaxed her wheel to turn. I felt her joy and easing with my study and concern. I cleaned her and I oiled her, showed her off to all my friends, repaired the hurts of years and let her sew again.